Good morning, good morning. Lottie Dottie. What's up, Eric, Dean, Squish, Dr. J, USMC, Flatty, Insen, Carol, Brock. We got the whole gang. All right, so I know Lone Wolf is hanging out here somewhere too. So what are we looking at? We are looking at my screen. There's a lot of juicy setups right now. Let's just call it as it is. There's some really good stuff going on. We got BA on the watch list, SPY of course, AMD with a giant bull flag pennant. TVIX is trying to hold on above VWAP and 9 EMA 5-minute. Looks like it's rolling over. ACB with a bull pennant, scallop up. NPTN up at the 50% minor retracement. Lone looking for another test of the 50% retracement. And IEA, let's see, IEA, what is that one? I gotta look at, is that an earnings? IEA, let's see, announced a new energy project award valued at almost 100 million. So that's cool. So we got some good stuff to look at today, I would say. Yep, I can look at that. Let's just go through the main charts first and get my screen organized. Make sure I got everything set up the way I want. All right, so step one, let's look at futures. So futures did bounce off of one of my fib lines. I did not think it was going to hit it, and it did. So that is the 2784. Did I draw this kind of loosely? I think I gunslinged this one. Hang on a sec. Yeah, these numbers are not 30, 29, 50, and 23, 16. So I was more than a couple points off when I drew this in haste. There we go. All right, so we did hit 27.94, bounced pretty hard. Yeah, last night the hourly put in pretty nice bullish candlestick setup, and now we are back trending above on futures, the hourly 9 EMA. We also broke right angle resistance, but we're right back against this Gann fan. So this is a customized Gann angle, and you could see a major breakdown below it, back up to this 2851 fib, and now we're bumping into this green angle here. I do have a 45-degree resistance Gann fan that I'm watching to see if we reject here. This could be pretty ugly, and we could keep this really sharp velocity. So I'd like to see price action get above this orange line here on futures and above this this purple hourly 50 SMA. I look at the 50 SMA and the hourly as kind of a trending indicator. When it's pointing this far down, I don't like it. When it's starting to point up, aggressively up, and hold a nice momentum along with the 200 SMA and the hourly, I like that. But when you see these big roll-offs, now they eventually stabilize and flatten out, and then eventually will point up, and those are good momentum long signals. So that is ES, which kind of covers, I guess, SPY in a nutshell. But let's take a look at BA. So BA, I like this trade setup because we have a falling wedge on the short-term 5-minute charts. We've got potential for a bullish crossover close to resistance. So you could see right here we had the 50 and 200. 200s on my charts are always going to be these kind of aqua-colored lines, and the 50s are always going to be purple. So we're looking at a 5-minute chart, and we had a crossover, but we ran into resistance. Now it looks like we're tempting a crossover again, and we have the potential to break out of this falling wedge. And I've got two targets. I got 350 and 369 for upside targets if the market rallies hard, covers hard, et cetera, et cetera. So, Boeing's earnings are behind. The earnings were not good. That's why you had some of this big sell-off. But there's always a bounce. Nothing goes straight down. And we've moved just below this major fib level at 330, but we're right back to it already. And if you look at the hourly, it kind of looks like we're above this falling wedge already, which is likely to kind of maybe back test it a couple times. But we're above that 9 EMA and outside of it in that case. So there's a good chance that we rally up to at least my first target, 350, as long as the markets don't act crazy and we don't have trade war escalations. We're always subject to news when we're trading in these kind of volatile periods of time. It's a little bit, you have to be a little bit tighter with the stops and be prepared for still a major downtrend or trend reversal. There's been some nasty technical damage done, obviously, in the last couple days. So, really just targeting short-term bounce moves right now and being prepared for markets to continue lower on major stocks. Let's take a look at AMD. I'm just going to cover the big stocks, and then we'll get to the little stocks in a minute. AMD, massive falling wedge. Let me clear this chart up. I'm going to scalp this. All right, so AMD, kind of similar, right? Hourly had a falling wedge, kind of break out to the downside. Majority broke out, retest, trying to get out. I do like the action pre-market, right? You can see the majority of candles kind of trading inside this. This falling wedge might want to widen, so I'd be cautious of this. A lot of times these falling wedges will just expand the wedge, right? And you have to watch and see what the candles and wicks are telling you. So essentially, this is where a lot of traders fall into traps on falling wedges, but they are still tradable. You just got to be aware of the potential. When you start seeing slowdown like this, now this is a bullish pattern, right? You have these wicks developing right here. You have this bull flag, bull pennant type scenario on AMD in the pre-market. You got really aggressive volume, which is nice. That's the, building this flagpole up. And now we're seeing buying right at that 9 EMA on the 5-minute. Because of these wicks here, we can actually draw this line a little bit more aggressively so that and it's hard unless you really zoom in, but I'm trying to give these, see all these touches right here. So it's showing you, hey, don't fall into this trap. If this turns into just a widening falling wedge, that's going to suck, right? You try to go long on something like this. So we're going to wait till the open. Obviously, the hourly looks like it's turning around. Again, there's that 50 SMA on the hourly chart acting as resistance, kind of building out this falling wedge. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that and see if this materializes into a good bounce play. But I like the aggressive buying. Unlike SPY and some other stocks, AMD has some interesting high volume in the pre-market. So could see some shorts covering, at least maybe even just for half a day. We'll take it on the long side, and then we can always grab the short on the other side. So that sums up that. Now let's take a look at loans. So loan had earnings today. And if I look at Benzinga, it was a beat. I don't know if they raised guidance or not. I'm just looking at the news. I see a basic headline. And they hit a 50% retracement level. That's this bright blue line here at the 331. Got over it briefly, pulled back. Right now we've got obvious, typical, right? Very typical triangle formation in the pre-market. This may backtest its former angular support out here. It may drop below this fib at 262. It could get support at this 50 SMA, right? I'm sorry, 200 SMA, right? Coming up to meet it. But essentially, we're going to watch for volume reversal. Let's look at this trend line too. Yeah, see, we broke out of that. So maybe we trade inside here, breakout. I'd like to see volume come in and a good bullish, bull flag, bull pennant, something above one of these Fibonacci levels to take us up to the 331 and get another test, maybe cup and handle up here and then move higher. So this is fine. We're good with it. We'll let this thing falling wedge or trade inside this triangle and see where the volume comes in when the bell rings. Okay, next I got NPTN. Now this one was an earnings play as well, but it's got more of a rising wedge type pattern going on. So it's already at its 50% retracement level. Again, I draw these. I'm very careful about how I draw these, but I look for, this is a medium term retracement. So here was the last kind of, you call it bull run. We had momentum just over $7 and then earnings and just got smashed after earnings. Finally found a bottom, made a higher low here, got some momentum back, and you can see this bright blue line right here, 50% retracement. The bulls have had a hard time keeping price above that, so we have to really pay attention to that. And we can already see some hourly wicks developing here, potentially showing that this thing's just going to roll right back over. 9 EMA support 483. Now this is a moving target, so we're going to watch this hourly 9 EMA for momentum buying at 483. So where's roughly 483 is roughly, again, this is going to move, and I'll be watching these moving averages on TrendSpider in real time to help me plan these entries. But we'll see. This rising wedge looks like it's going to bust. If it doesn't, and it just trades and kind of stretches out, you could see a cup and handle developing, some other type of range trade. Again, I'm waiting for the open on all these. I'm not going to trade these pre-market. I don't see any excessive volume that warrants a pre-market trade on any of these so far. The short float was not that big on NPTN. It was under 4%. But NPTN does have the most volume in the pre-market. And because of this rising wedge, these will, don't get confused about it. A lot of times with these smaller cap stocks, these rising wedges will sometimes squeeze up to the upside. So we're going to watch our moving averages closely and volume, and we'll be ready if it does. ACB, yeah, let me get to ACB now. So ACB reported earnings. This one had a pretty, if I'm not mistaken, what was the short float on ACB? Ah, man, go figure. Trade Ideas doesn't tell me. I know this had a pretty, the last time I checked, there was a lot of shares being held short. Let me check shortsqueeze.com. Let's see. Their data is usually pretty good. So let's see. Short interest ratio, days to cover. Short interest. Where's the percentage? Let's see. There was a 1%. 87 million. Is that only? They don't have a percentage either. Maybe it is really low. Maybe it's under 1%. This is a pretty high float on ACB. At any rate, you can see it's pretty close to my Fibonacci level. 673 was a big level. We have to go kind of further out at the hourly. Again, price getting above this 200 SMA on the hourly, it's only done it briefly, right? And then it's rolled right back over. So we need to be, not getting too much of a bullish bias on this. There's obvious channel resistance. There's a pretty obvious down channel that's very strong on this particular stock. If we were to let these lines go to, eventually they intersect and this becomes just kind of a massive falling wedge. But if this thing maintains its highs and closes at high a day, we might see a bit of a sustained rally, short covering rally, bulls come back in, we could see potentially 750. So I'm going to watch it. We'll see how it does at the open. Right now, trading pretty nice going into the morning bell. So I do like the way that it's looking at the moment. I think that's covered it. I did cover futures, so now I don't need to really cover anything else. I know you guys asked me to look at NIO. So NIO with a little gap up. Again, all these stocks are doing this. They're all trading into some type of potential bullish reversal pattern. So NIO is in a downward megaphone. It's at resistance. It's got the right momentum moving average support, but it's at resistance. So if you're buying up here when NIO is making kind of this little rising wedge and this breaks down, that's a very bearish signal. But if we get sustained above our momentum moving averages, the volume supports it, there's potential for NIO to form a inverse, right? An inverse head and shoulders. You know, if you see some price action out here, and then traders line up on this 336, and then they line up for a move up, that's potential. Social media, I know people are looking at Twitter, Facebook, Snap. A lot of those stocks have been hammered the last few days, and people are looking for buying opportunities. So just looking at, you know, Twitter, it looks like it found some angular support here. Similar, right? Its right angle resistance is much higher. We could see it trading up as high as 42.45. This actually looks like a good setup. I like this type of consolidation pattern. It doesn't matter if it's pre-market or not. You kind of have this kind of ascending wedge or ascending triangle, almost a flat top. Almost. But you could see this thing getting some big volume and squeezing up to this this particular trend line, which looks like it's just around 42.25. And then I'll look at spot really quick because we got 4 minutes till the bell goes ding ding. And all right, so spot. Let's see. This must be a yikes. That's an old, very old. Let's see what the major 4-hour chart's kind of telling us. Let's see, we do have some wicks out here. Let's look at the short term. Spotify. Looks like it broke kind of out of a falling wedge. Might need to retest. Again, I don't like, this is kind of the choppiness. I like these smooth running together momentum moving averages on a 5-day, 5-minute chart. And once you get, you know, after earnings, you get this kind of choppiness, and you wait for stabilization above these moving averages before taking any type of swing trade. But it looks like there's kind of like a little mini rising wedge here. I would use this as, you know, this crossover. Again, you want to see the 50 above the 200 on a 5-minute chart for this thing to get any kind of trend. You could always do a short-term retracement, right, and look at these minor retracements and target 50% retracements. So right smack dab in the middle would be 153.42. So once you get this was nice. This made a higher low here, higher low. So this is trying to make higher lows from this low here. And right now momentum looks like it's trying to shift back up to the upside. So this would be the target. This is what I would shoot for, 153.42. But I don't have a good long signal entry here. If anything, I'm waiting for a retest, another retest of the falling wedge breakout, or for this rising wedge right here to prove itself with volume. I didn't cover IEA, but we can look at that. I did have that on my charts this morning. This, I believe, is earnings as well. And just looking at, I drew kind of a medium-term Fibonacci retracement. We're hanging out right near this 308. This is not a terrible consolidation pattern. It's not selling off super heavy, but you do have potential for falling wedge. Again, we got to wait for these momentum moving averages to see what happens if it's going to pick it up. But this 308 level is what I'm watching for any type of signal. Right now, it doesn't have a lot of volume in the pre-market. This is pretty light, considering most of these 5-minute candles are under 20,000. So it's on the list, but it's not a front runner. These are all my front runners right now, including SPY. So I'm gonna shut down. Yeah, and actually Twitter. Twitter actually looks. I'm actually gonna replace IEA with Twitter because I do like, in terms of good bullish setups right now with patterns. You got Twitter and AMD. These are and BA. So those are my favorites right now for, well, and ACB. There's a bunch of bullish setups right now, so you got to just, pick a couple and stick with it. All right, YouTube, I'm going to shut down the YouTube stream. I will see you guys later.